Mother Knows Best. It is a 1997 movie based on actual events. Now, the true story is based on Lee Goldsmith. It is about a mother who wants the perfect life for her daughter and sets out to have her new son-in-law ended. Now, why did she want her son-in-law to be no more? Because he wasn't good enough for her daughter. The movie starred actress Joanna Kearns. And listen, Joanna Kearns played this part so well.
The ad was deliberately misleading. Up-and-coming businessman might act.
Now, they changed all the names and the locations for this particular story to keep the real story a secret. But as you know, back then, I was investigating a lot of these movies and actually found the basis of it. As I said, it was based on the real case involving Lee Goldsmith. And I found the basis of the movie in 2009. So that was quite a few years after the movie had aired. No one really knew who this movie was based on. Unless you were from the Florida area and you remember that particular story, most people who were watching true story movies probably didn't make the connection, or I know they didn't make the connection. So when we posted this article, people went crazy over it. And, it was about a sweet grandmother who conspired to kill her own son-in-law. And like I said, that story happened out in Boca Raton, Florida. So referring to the article that I wrote about it entitled Mother Knows Best, the shocking true story that inspired the movie, again, it's about Florida socialite Lee Goldsmith, who hated her son-in-law so much that she hired someone to kill him. Was so anxious to find a suitable husband for her daughter, Arlene, that she took out an ad in the local newspaper. And the title was, Nice Jewish Girl Wants to Meet Nice Jewish Boy. David Brownstein is the man who answered that ad. However, Goldsmith could not bear the thought of her daughter marrying him because he was not a professional man. He was an auto repairman. And that wasn't impressive enough for her, and it wasn't impressive enough for her socialite friends. So Goldsmith concocted this plan to ruin this man's life. And according to testimony, Goldsmith did everything she could to break up this marriage.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Celeste? Celeste?
Hell will freeze over before he touches my daughter.
And according to testimony, Goldsmith did everything she could to break up this marriage. And when that didn't work, she paid $10,000 and set up the Valentine's Day murder of her daughter's husband. Wow. She hired and contracted a killer. She paid Thomas Brennan $1,000 up front, and then once everything was done, she would pay the remaining $9,000. She had, I should say the police were videotaping this exchange. They caught her on camera paying this man to kill David while they were meeting in her car. They quickly moved in and they arrested her. I think you can even find that footage online. They charged her with solicitation of first-degree murder, and she was sentenced to 5 to 5.5 years in prison. And that, again, like I said, that movie aired about her story in 1997. In 2009, I spoke with Lee Goldsmith. She was eager to talk. She seemed forthcoming. She sounded like a frail, older woman. And when I asked her certain questions, she didn't really want to answer them. She replied, well, my husband took care of those things. Now, Milton, her husband, passed away months before my call, she told me. She said he had passed away after fracturing his neck and he never recovered. When I spoke to her, she was 86 years old, and she confided in me that these days she feels very alone and despondent. With her husband gone and her daughter no longer in the picture, she told me she spent most of her days alone and no longer engages in any kind of outside activities or fundraising. Now, a few tidbits about the case that I remember. The real Celeste, of course, was a lot older than the real woman. Excuse me, let me say that again. The real Celeste, Lee Goldsmith, was a lot older than Joanna Kerns' character. Producers made Kerns more blonde and pretty and glamorous. And again, the real woman was a socialite. The Goldsmiths tried to hide their assets by plotting a divorce. That's another interesting fact in this case. And another interesting fact is Arlene was not her biological daughter, but her adopted daughter. Arlene told a newspaper that living with her mother was a nightmare. In fact, she described it as a living nightmare. Her mother had played tricks on her throughout her entire life. Lots of emotional manipulation, and there were strange falls and strange bruises and other strange events that happened throughout her entire life until she caught on that something was off. And the actual case was covered on hit shows like A Current Affair, Hard Copy, Inside Edition, Crime Watch. And Lee Goldsmith told her story on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Let's take a peek at that.
There was a crime committed, and she's guilty of it. And
she's been convicted of that.
She's been convicted of that crime.
When you hear your daughter say that, how does it make you feel, Lee?
Well, truthfully, Arlene is adopted. And
Go ahead.
Arlene is adopted, and in my book, adoption and love means the same thing. This has been a daughter that we doted on. We gave her everything. We deprived ourselves. And this is what we wanted to do. It's not her fault.
So, this movie it wasn't a sad movie. It was sort of kind of a upbeat but dramatic tale of this real story. And of course, the real story, there's nothing entertaining or amusing about it. Arlene and her husband were really suffering under her mother's reign of terror, basically. They never spoke again. I talked to Lee Goldsmith. I believe it was Easter morning or Easter afternoon, and she seemed kind of sad. She said that she had never talked to Arlene or seen her again. And of course, now this would be up until 2009 when I spoke to her. I don't know if they've spoken since then. But Arlene didn't want anything to do with her. She told a newspaper that prison wasn't good enough for her, that she would only truly feel safe if her mother was no longer alive. Wow. And I thought, wow. But, also remember, this is her, she's not, Lee Goldsmith is not her biological mother. So maybe that's why she felt so strongly about that. Points I took away from this case, as I look back on some of these stories, when I first reported on them, mostly facts in the case. And now, so many years later, I look back and I have my own reflections about these stories. And some of the points that I took away from this particular case is, you heard in the Oprah Winfrey interview that she wanted the best for her daughter. She wanted the best for her, and I think most parents do. They want the best for their kids, and they want them to marry the best partners, because if they choose wrong, then their life can really go downhill. So most parents want them to choose a suitable partner. And this lady didn't feel like her daughter was getting a suitable partner. When I was talking to her on the phone, it's easy to feel sorry for her because she really kind of comes across as a sweet old lady. But we know that's not true because she crossed the line that most of us would not cross in trying to end someone else's life, is definitely crossing the line. And it's harmful to try to manipulate your children into living a life you chose for them. That backfires. It backfires every time. And putting an ad in the paper without Arlene's permission backfired. The grandmother ended up attracting the very person she didn't want for her daughter. She either attracted it or was sent, that man, because she needed to learn a lesson. You don't manipulate your children's life. It's best to talk to them, teach them, and show them by example, but let them work out the details of their life and support them as much as you can, even if they deviate from that lifestyle that you planned for them, unless, of course, their lifestyle presents a danger to you and to themselves. And it's all about loving your kids unconditionally, in my opinion, right? Like I said, unless they present a danger to you, then you have to make that separation. So Celeste, aka Lee Goldsmith, didn't get what she wanted in the end. And she ended up, sort of living a life alone. No husband and no grandchildren and no daughter because of her ways. And that's kind of sad. She told me in the end, though, she revealed she had never seen the movie based on her life and wasn't familiar with that particular network. We never discussed the crime, and she refers to it only as the incident. She said she would like to watch the movie, though. She said she wanted me to let her know when the movie was on again.